Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today, we get to talk about the exciting stuff of fear. That's like one of our most favorite topics, right? The fears that we have. So, today, we're going to hop into our lesson on mental toughness and how fear cripples us and how fear is a major blockage in our life. So, are we ready? Let me pull up my notes. Okay. So, how do we remove fear and how this can eliminate many of our challenges? Like for real. So yesterday we talked about the common obstacles that we face and the tools that we can use to overcome them or even prevent them. So today's lesson, we're really tapping into the influence of fear in our life. I want to demonstrate that to you. I want to give you certain situations that we fear and how it creates blockages in our life. And for those of you that are looking to become entrepreneurs, you can only imagine how these fears are heightened to a different level. Okay. So the thing is, everybody suffers from fear, everybody. And it is unlikely that you have any issues in your life that weren't created by fear, to be 100% honest. You might not think that your financial or your relationships challenges are rooted in fear, but if you're truly honest with yourself, you'll probably realize that many of these obstacles are caused by your fear and your inability to deal with them in an appropriate way. So let's talk about a couple of examples. So relationship issues. If you grew up where you were abandoned, so if you grew up in a home that you didn't have both parents, or if there was ever any situations where you dated somebody and they left you, the fear of abandonment is a very common fear. Okay. It's also a common fear to fear the loss of autonomy and freedom. Trust issues can also be fear-based. You might be afraid that you won't be fully accepted. So here's the thing. When you think about fear of abandonment, you feel like someone's going to leave you or something's going to happen. So every decision you make, that fear is part of your decision-making process. For example, you may overcommit, or you may commit to everything, or you may do a lot of people pleasing because your fear is if you don't do it, they will leave you. If you don't do it, you will lose your job. Okay. Now I'm going to use me as an example because I am the best person to use. My fear of abandonment was humongous. And pretty much every decision I made in my life up until about 8 years ago was it was based in the fear of abandonment. I ran an entire company with that same mentality. I made sure that when I created my company, that I knew everything about everything. There was not one job somebody could come in and do that I couldn't do. And there were certain things I would not give up for. I would not give anyone else. I wouldn't train someone else. Not knowing that the reason I feared turning stuff over was because I feared abandonment. What happened if I trained everybody on everything I knew? Then why would they need me? Even though it was my own company. But that fear of abandonment made me hold on to things that I didn't need to hold on to. It forced me not to ask for help because in my eyes, asking for help was a sign of weakness because that's what we've been told. But let me tell you something. Not asking for help is the true gangster. Not allowing fear to run your life is the true gangster. Being vulnerable is the true gangster. Let me tell you something. Anybody can pretend that they're okay. But it takes a strong person to stand there and say, hey, look, I am breaking. I need help. This ain't working for me. You show me one vulnerable person and you will see strength. It's easy to pretend. We do that all the time. So when you have this fear that people are going to leave you, then you're going to do everything in your existence to make sure that happens. Or if you fear like you're going to lose your freedom if you have certain relationships, and this isn't intimate relationships, this is friendships too. How many people have stayed in friendships because they didn't want to hurt the other person's feelings, or because they didn't want to leave that person, or this person has made you feel like they can't live without you? Like, how many times has that happened? And then trust issues. Trust issues can be fear-based, because if someone violated your trust, instead of you looking at how they violated your trust, what boundaries you didn't have in place that violated your trust, you automatically stop trusting people. But here's the thing. You can't do things that you don't do to yourself. 100% of the trust issues that you have is that you don't trust you. You teach people how to treat you. You teach people what's okay. What happens is you have the silent sacrifices that you're making that other people are unaware of, and they're violating your boundaries, and you're not telling them because you think they realize that they know that, because you think they think like you, and they don't, because they don't. And you're teaching them what's okay. But then when something happens, you put all the blame on them and you're throwing your hands up. I did everything I could. I tried. But you don't go back and look at every time you had that feeling of you don't want to do this, or you have this feeling of I can't deal with this anymore, or you had that nagging, uneasy feeling. Or let's go to the real root. When you hear that feeling that's telling you, no, this ain't a good idea, but you do it anyway, you violate your own trust within you. You don't trust what you are telling you. So how do you trust other people when you don't even know what they're thinking? It's hard for you to have that trust. But if you trust you, and you trust what boundaries you've created, and you're teaching people because you're speaking your truth, then guess what? Those things start happening less, because it starts within you. What you're projecting out is what you're receiving back. So if you're in these relationships where you fear abandonment, then look at the abandonment of every time you have abandoned you, where you've stepped outside and you've abandoned what you knew was right for you to make someone else happy. So your fear of abandonment first comes with you. Your fear of losing freedom comes from you, because when you give too much, then you become responsible for other people. And then when you become responsible, you lose your freedom. You use your autonomy to do what you want. And then trust. You don't trust you. Now, are there things that people do that just are far out left? Absolutely, because everybody has free will. However, if you aren't doing these simple things for you, then it's more likely you're going to meet the people out there that aren't going to do it. Okay. Money issues. Many people deal with fear and anxiety. But money issues are huge. How many times, and I'm going to raise my hand because there's so many times I can't even, if I could have millions of fingers, I would put them up. How many times have you felt fearful, felt anxiety, and you went shopping? You just needed to feel good. You just needed that hit that makes you feel good. And the whole time you're doing it, the whole time you're searching for that instant gratification, you're telling yourself, you really don't need nothing. You really shouldn't buy this. Then you buy it, and then welcome guilt and shame and self-abuse. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? But we don't want to make any changes. But if we can't manage the little bit of money we have, then why do we think we're going to get an abundance of money? Because you don't know how to handle a little bit of money. If you're going to go out there shopping every time you need to feel better, then guess what? The more money you get, the bigger the items you purchase. And you're still going to be in the same situation. And I can attest to that too. When I was making 6 figures a month, the elevation of the things I bought was a lot grander. So many people say, how do these football players and all these people make millions of dollars a month and always broke? Because they never understood money. Their fear of not having money made you go and buy things so you would never be without. You have lived in lack. But this is deep rooted. Like, you have to really put in the work to heal that fear of money. Okay. Procrastination. Procrastination can be caused by fear of failure or perceived discomfort of performing unpleasant tasks. For example, you might fear you're missing out on something exciting, and then you check your work email instead. So you check your email instead of working. So you see what I'm saying? Like, procrastination, if we have a fear of failure, then we're not going to do it. If everything has to be perfect, then we're not going to do it. And that's a big thing with procrastination. And a lot of that comes from how we were raised. If we grew up in a home where nothing was ever right, then you feel like everything has to be perfect and you're always striving to achieve perfection. If we procrastinate and wait to the last minute, then we rush. And then we're proud of ourselves for what we did get accomplished. And then we say to ourselves, well, if I'd have started earlier, imagine how amazing it would have been. Yeah, but you convinced yourself why you didn't need to start until here. Because some of that is like you have an excuse to fall back on, like, well, I only had 3 hours to do a 2-week project, so I did the best I could. But you'd have done the best you could if you would have started on it back then. Not saying we're not going to beat ourselves up from it. We've learned from that. We've learned that procrastination creates anxiety, fear. Yes, you get it done, but at what expense, health-wise, are you dishing out your health for this waiting to the last minute? It doesn't help you. It hurts you. Okay? Stuck in a job that you dislike. Oh my goodness. You might be afraid that no other decent jobs exist for you. You might be fearful of giving up your benefits or getting a job that pays less. You might be afraid of going through the application process and competing for another job and someone else gets it. Or you might be fearful that if you leave, that the other company is worse. I've dealt with a lot of people that believe that. Well, at least I know the demon that I'm dealing with. Okay, so we're going to keep staying there dealing with the demon that you're dealing with, or leave and stop dealing with a demon. Okay, and I want you to go back into your life and ask yourself, where is fear impacting your life negatively? Now, one of the secrets that I teach all of my students is if you fear something, write down what's the worst thing that can happen. Okay? And then when you write it down, then come up with a couple things that you can do to prevent that from happening. Okay? Because we don't fear things that we think we can solve. And that goes back to trusting yourself. If you trust yourself that whatever is presented, you will be able to handle it, then you start to have less fear. You stop making decisions out of fear. Okay? So, how to handle your fears that are holding you back. Realize that fear is uncomfortable, but it isn't a good reason to avoid doing something. Fear is helpful if you're considering doing something physically dangerous. But at the end of the day, fear is simply a feeling. There's no reason to let fear guide every decision you make. So, yes, there are certain things that fear is supposed to be an instant when your life is in danger. Okay? That's fear. But we, because of our upbringing when we were children, things happened to us that we created fear. And so now we've learned to fear everything. And some of that is strongly outside influences. If you're looking at what we're going through right now, we're in a recession. We're going to run out of food. We're running out of jobs. There's more people homeless than there's ever been. There's this, there's this, there's this. And all you're hearing is like, lack. Things are going bad. Things look bad. We need to hold on to everything. That's fear-based. So you're living in that energy of fear at all times, and you shouldn't. Your life is not in danger at this particular moment. Okay? Think about fearful activity and simply breathe. That is the number one thing I can say. Your body is unable to maintain a fear reaction in the long term. There's a psychological technique called flooding. In flooding, a person is exposed to their fear without being allowed any reprieve. Think about the activity that makes you uncomfortable and focus on taking long, deep breaths. Notice how you start to feel better. We'll always teach that. If you ever feel anxious, if you ever feel a negative emotion, if you ever feel just stop what you're doing, breathe, hold, exhale, and just keep doing that until whatever emotion is passing through. And I'm going to use the animal as an example. Think of a dog. A dog runs out in the street, almost gets hit by a car. The first thing that dog does is once that dog is in safety, it shakes out the fear, and it keeps moving. It didn't hold on to it. It doesn't know that the next day when it goes to run across the street, it doesn't think about what just happened because that happened yesterday. They shook it off. You look at deer, you look at any animal, they always shake out their emotion. We don't do that. We hold on to it so damn hard that it just don't go nowhere. And we live in that state at all times. And we constantly are creating that chemical, then our brain gets addicted to fear. So the moment your that energy level or that chemical starts to drop in your body naturally wants to put an intrusive thought in your head, so you begin to fear, so it shoots that chemical back up. Now, to really blow a lot of y'all's mind, when you're in the womb, every feeling and emotion that your mother feels, guess who she's feeding that to? Some kids that come out colicky, a lot of the reasons that they are colicky is because they're going through withdrawals of all of the stress and anxiety that, or whatever else that was going on within the mother, that the mother was feeding them. That's where a lot of these energies and these chemicals come from, is from when we were in the womb. Right? Remember the times you were fearful and still make a good choice. Go back to those times. There's been times where you felt that fear, but you managed to take the appropriate course of action anyway. So remind yourself of those times. Remind yourself all the time that I've survived. There are things that should have killed me, but I survived them. I can trust me in making decisions. And you can make those out of contentment and trusting. Yes, there can be fear associated, but fear doesn't have to be the one that makes the decision. Okay? Learn to deal with discomfort. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Take a situation that you found mildly uncomfortable. And for me, that has been social media and teaching and being on YouTube and podcast, and I've blocked myself from a very long time. Like, no, I don't want to do that. That's not for me. But then it was just like, but wait a minute. How are people going to get to know who you are? How do people get to see how you operate and how do they develop trust in you? How do they get to know you if you're hiding and not becoming public? How does that happen? And so when I made the commitment, like, okay, this year I'm going to launch, and I'm going to launch courses on my YouTube channel. And for me, it's about me staying committed to a goal that I have. I don't look and see how many people see this. I know that whoever is meant to see it will see it when the time is right. It's not about me doing this for others. Yes, I do want to help people heal, but right now it's more about me being consistent and doing what my goals are. I don't know where this YouTube channel is going to come or where it's going to go, but I trust me enough to know that right now I'm going to put something on it every day because I want to, because I love teaching, because I love talking. So is it uncomfortable for me? Yeah, it is. It is. But what I do know is I'm just going to be me. I'm not going to sugarcoat nothing. That's not who I am. I'm not going to say, well, I can't say these words, or I'm not going to cuss because if I do, this might offend people. I can't deal with what offends people and what doesn't offend people. I'm only dealing with me and what I want and what is flowing through me and what makes me happy. How other people perceive it is how they perceive it, and they need to check them. So if I trigger you, ask yourself why I triggered you. That's what I want to do. I want to make you feel uncomfortable, because if you feel uncomfortable enough, guess what? It's going to push you out of your comfort zone. And that's my goal, is to push you outside of the comfort zone that has been harming you, even though you don't want to admit it. And even though that's like, I used to would think when I would hear people say it used to piss me off, like, what do you mean? I am trying hard. I am trying to be consistent. I am this. But when I stopped trying to prove and stood back and say, okay, what is it really? And I realized it's me being stuck in these constant patterns that are not beneficial to me. And I need someone to be honest with me and just say, hey, the reason all this over here is happening in your life is because of these reasons. It's not just you have bad luck. No, it's the decisions and the way you make your decisions, which is why it's very imperative to heal your inner child, because until you heal that hurt inner child in you, that little child keeps making all the decisions in your adult life. Just saying. So that little child that may have been molested, or that little child that was abandoned, or that little child that had to take care of their parents, or that little child was always scared, that little child is making all the decisions in your adult life because that little child is scared. So until you do some deep inner child healing, understand that you're going to keep doing that. And if you need help with inner child, we have the courses. Like, sign up, take it, invest in yourself, okay? Realize that discomfort and fear are frequently good things. If you're not doing anything that makes you uncomfortable, your life is likely to stay the same as it is right now. And if you're listening to this, that's because you're tired of the life that you're living. And it's only when you push your comfort that things begin to happen. Okay. All right. Fear is the most common causes of challenges in our life. Learn to work through your fear and gain the ability to make positive choices. You'll boost your self-esteem and enjoy a happier life. Learn to embrace discomfort as a positive sign that your life is about to change for the better. So, like, let's get started today. Like, stop not doing the things that make you happy. So tomorrow, we're going to talk about a way to deal with your challenges quickly and simply. However, that does not mean it's necessarily going to be easy. Now, we can ask for ease and effortlessly, but let me explain when we say easy. Us trying to stop doing something we've done our entire life because that's what we've been taught, it is hard to constantly keep turning until that becomes what's normal. Okay, so I just want y'all to realize that. Okay, give yourself some grace. If you've been, for example, when I started my workout program, the first few weeks it wasn't all coming together. Like I was trying to learn this part, I was trying to learn this part. It was a little overwhelming. So what I did was I was like, okay, well, let me just focus and conquer one thing. So once I conquered this one thing, then I started adding other elements. Now, 5 weeks in, now I have all elements, I have all the motivation, I have structure, I understand what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to do it, and it's now with ease. But I'm not even gonna lie, the first 5 weeks was hard, it was difficult, because I'm used to doing things my way, and my way got me to the point that I needed to go find additional help and resources to help me achieve what I wanted to achieve. And I'm glad I did, because it simplified things. Instead of me continuing to spend, I've been working on my health and I've done good. I give myself knowledge, but I've had more results in 5 weeks from working with an expert than 2-3 years of me trying to figure it out on my own. So I see the benefit of investing my money and time to people that know and that have that expertise, because it is second nature. Like for me, I can open up a business just like that because it's second nature. I don't even have to think about it. To other people, they're like, I don't even know where to go. I don't even know where to begin. Same thing with this mental fitness course. Like, I love teaching mental fitness. I love teaching people about their emotions, their traumas, and their behaviors and their actions, and how all of those things are in a circle. I love that. It's second nature to me. I don't even think about it. It just, I can hear something and boom, I can see it. But when it comes to certain things, that's not my strength. Social media, not my strength. So I keep it simple. Keep it simple until I find the right social media person to take over it. But right now, I'm just rocking it with what I got and what I know. And I'm keeping it simple. Other things, like when I joined and purchased this group to be a part of this health fitness, I feel better after 5 weeks. This is the best I've ever felt in my entire life. And it took 5 weeks of an investment for me to get there, to where I'm now motivated and eager and excited for the next workout. And that's the thing. I want you to look at everything in your life with excitement and curiosity. Think of that little child in you that is hurt. Think of that little child when you're doing something. Like, be curious about it. Be excited about it, that you're learning something new, even though you've done it before. But looking at things like, now that I no longer procrastinate, I'm excited and eager to knock things out, because it feels so good to get all that weight off and to have all this free time to do more things that I love. Like, it feels great to be able to say, okay, Thursday, I get to go hang out with my friends from 1 to 5. I love that. That feels amazing to me, because all my work will be done. I don't have nothing to do except live life. And that's what we all want. But it's taken me to have to put in and face the things that were hard, that were whooping my ass. Like, let me tell you, they were whooping my ass. But once I took control, I stopped getting a spanking from myself in life. Okay. So how do we do this? Here's what you need to do today. Number 1, Become more adept at dealing with discomfort in your daily life. Okay. Now I know this can be a little bit challenging because we're programmed to seek out comfort. We're so quick to respond to any form of discomfort, and our ability to withstand it is compromised. Rebuild that ability in yourself. Okay. So how do we do that? Here's a few things that I would recommend to stimulate your thinking. When you have the urge to eat something, make yourself wait another 30 minutes. That has been huge for me. If I feel like I'm hungry, I'll drink some water and I'll wait 30 minutes. If I'm still hungry, I eat. If I'm not, then I keep rolling. That's with anything in life, okay? When you feel like quitting an unenjoyable task, stick with it for another 15 minutes. Because what happens is those 15 minutes that you, after you want to quit, you'll probably accomplish it, or you'll get so far along that you're like, it's going to take me 5 more minutes and I'm done. Have challenging conversations instead of avoiding them. This is critical. We get so scared of how we're going to make other people feel that we don't tell them the truth. When we try to keep the peace, this goes back to a trust issue. When we try to keep the peace, okay, we're being dishonest to those individuals because we're letting them think that that's okay because we're not coming out and saying anything. We're letting them think that the way they're treating me or the things that they're saying are okay because we don't want to disrupt the peace. But then we're also lying to ourselves because after something happens and we don't tell somebody something, then we start to get resentful. We start to get angry. We start to have anxiety. We start to have dread. And then you're over here silently doing sacrifices that this person don't even know. And then you feel like you're being taken advantage of when they have no idea that you feel that way. You see how all of that's a lot of dishonesty going on there? And you're hurting you. That's the most important thing that you need to learn. You being quiet hurts you, not the other person. They don't know you feel that way. And here's the beauty. The more you start to have those challenging conversations, you will be amazed at how people treat you. Here's the thing. If you being honest with someone about how you feel, if they don't like that and they turn that and use your feelings against you, you're in the wrong place. You need to move forward in somewhere else, because when you start to speak your truth, the people that will appreciate you are the people that are on your tribe. Okay? And ask yourself, do you really want to be surrounded by people that really don't know your truth or know what you're thinking or how you feel? How is that safe? That's not a safe environment. Okay? Last one. Refuse to engage in the most common avoidance and distraction techniques that people often do. And I know you're like, well, what is that? Your cell phone, the internet, TV, social media, addictions like drugs, alcohol, well, all of these things are addictions. Anything that you can choose to avoid and distract yourself from what you're doing, stop it. Okay? Like I told you yesterday, the one thing that has helped me is in my phone, I set alarms. I give myself a time period. I give myself 50-minute blocks with a 10-minute mind wandering. And then I even block out times on my phone that I can do social media. And I will go in social media during that time. And what it does is it limits my exposure of outside influences. It gives me time back in my life. If you gave yourself a break and you just implemented that one thing about how much time you stay on social media or how much time you watch TV, if you remove those things, you'll be amazed at the amount of time you have to get other things done and or have more free time. Just those things. And when you go out to eat with people, no phones. Actually sit there and embrace the company and the people that are surrounding you. Because a lot of people feel lonely, and a lot of people feel like they're not heard or understood or listened to or seen. But yet we don't create a scenario where we can feel any of those things. We go out to dinner with people that we love, and we sit there all on the phone, not engaging in conversation. We would much rather look at people that we don't even know what's going on in their life instead of living our own life. So with that, I will leave you, beautiful souls. And I see all of you tomorrow. And I hope you have an amazing day.